Hello, everyone. My name is Jack Schaefer. I'm a product evangelist here at the Game Agency. And if this is your first game building workshop for the Training Arcade, welcome. We are super excited to have you. And if you've attended a previous workshop, welcome back. So we've been really excited to host these workshops and show you how incredibly easy it is to build your own gorgeous games using the Training Arcade in a matter of minutes. Today's area of focus is the Recall game. And today I'll be showing you a completed Recall game, the Training Arcade Game Builder, so you can see how to build your own game, and then some of the other features that the Training Arcade offers. If you're currently not a subscriber and haven't signed up for a free trial yet, there is a free trial available at thetrainingarcade.com. And I'll put a link here inside the chat that you all can click on. Once you get to the website, go ahead and click the orange button right at the top here that says Start Your Free Trial, and you can take advantage of that offer. I am recording this webinar, and we'll be sending out a link to the video after the webinar so you can share with other folks in your organization who might not have made it, or just for reference later on. I'd like to make this a working session, so if you have any questions throughout the entire workshop, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'd be happy to touch on them during our session. So I'd like to start first on kind of the history of the Training Arcade and why it exists in the first place. So the Game Agency launched in 2007, and about 95% of what we do is actually custom game development. And what we found throughout the years is that not all clients have the budget for a custom gamified solution. And so we wanted to create a product that was not only affordable, but also a product that would allow anyone to easily create and deploy games rapidly. The Training Arcade is that tool. It lets you complement what you're already doing, whether it's various different types of training via sales, pharmaceutical, other meetings, even client or in-house events. By adding the Training Arcade, it's complementing your activity because you're providing these games as the source to drive engagement with your content that you've already created, and therefore increase knowledge retention. We offer 8 different games on the Training Arcade, including the Jeopardy game. This is the only Jeopardy game in the market exclusively and officially licensed by Sony Productions for the Training Arcade's use. And it features official music, art, and voiceover from the show, so it really creates an exciting game show experience. Each of these games are available for $1,500 per game per year. Alternatively, you can own all 8 games for $6,000 per year. We also have custom pricing. So if you'd like additional admins, additional players, and custom branding, we're happy to talk about that pricing and what that entails. Now, with regards to Recall, Recall is a game that helps with visual learning and memorization. It tests the player's ability to retain specific details about an image without the benefit of knowing what to pay attention to beforehand. So players will view an image or a video that pops up on screen, and then they're asked questions on that image or video that relates to what they just saw. All of the pictures, the videos, and the questions are completely customizable, obviously. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. First, I actually wanted to briefly play through an existing Recall game to show you what the end product looks like. So real quick before we dive into this, some great uses for Recall are assessments such as learning geography, learning the different parts of an engine, the anatomy of a body, or even how to evacuate a building, or things to look for if you're a security officer and guard. And the example I'm about to show you pertains to food safety in the kitchen. So this is the first screen, and we see here an image of a chef in the kitchen. She's chopping vegetables, and so at the very bottom, you'll notice that there is a point value, and that point value is steadily decreasing as time goes on. So as the player takes longer to observe details about the image and really take in as much information as they can, the opportunity for earning maximum amount of points decreases. So players are actually rewarded for answering correctly, but also quickly, to see how much information they can gather in a short amount of time. And when they're ready to go and move on to the question, they'll click the button on the right, and then they're presented with the question. Now, the point value will not decrease at this time. They have as much time as they want to answer the question. And so for this question, it's asking me, what violations do you see in this picture? No, I'm not sure I got a good enough glance at that picture. At any time, your players can click the peek button down at the bottom right, and they'll be able to reveal that picture again to look once again at the image for anything that they're missing. They'll click ready to show that they are ready to answer that question and come back at it. And did you notice that the point value decreased again because I was looking at the image? Well, now that I had my second peek, I'm gonna say I did see there was a crack in the wall tile. Um, I think that the chef's hair was covered, and let's say the food contact surfaces are not clean and sanitized. I'm going ahead and submit that, and we got that right. I have some feedback that appears in the bottom of the question, and then I can move on to the second question. One thing I want to highlight here is at the bottom, I can remove one of the answers. So this is a little help that I can get for points that I have. I'll subtract 118 of my points, and I'll remove one of the options here to help me deduce what is the best answer or answers in this question. So what other violations do I see in this picture? I'm going to say there's inadequate refrigeration. The refrigerator was open, and I think the garbage is not covered and contained. It was actually all three of those. So we move on, and then it just continues in this similar fashion. More photos or videos will pop up, followed by a series of questions. Let's go ahead. We'll dive into the game builder, and I'll show you how you can build one of these games. So with any one of the Training Arcade games, you'll first, upon creation or editing, you'll first come into what we call the game info screen, and this is denoted by this tab right here at the top. Game information screen contains all of the default settings and information about your game. So you can see right off the bat, we have the game type recall, the name of our game, which you can change at any time, and then the specific URL for your game. This is how your users will access the game, and you can deploy it. You can change your URL right here. You'll also have the ability to set default languages. The Training Arcade offers 15 different languages right out of the box, and we'll get into a little bit more about those languages and how they work in the system a little later. Some other things to note here. You can set a requirement, a percentage of questions needed to be answered correctly in order to pass, and then you can set that specific percentage here. You can also choose to randomize the question groups. If you don't always want the same image and set of questions to appear first, you can select whether to have that randomized right here, and this is specific to the Recall game. You can also elect to show the tutorial before the game. If you have some supplemental material to show your users after the game for chances at additional learning, you can actually put a learn more URL to that supplemental material right here, and it'll pop over on the game over screen. More things to highlight. Training Arcade supports user registration. So if you'd actually like to lock down this game to a specific group of folks within your organization, such as sales or the IT folks, you can set up groups here. You can select an authorized player list, and then if you'd like to enter, if it's a small group, you can enter them manually here on the Training Arcade, or you can enter, you can upload a CSV of those players here, and so only those folks who access this URL will have to put in their email, their name, and they'll only be allowed to access the game. The Training Arcade also supports single sign-on. So if your organization supports single sign-on, you can actually integrate here with the Training Arcade and use that as an authorization method as well. The Training Arcade for Recall supports the use of different themes and tracks. So you can select your theme. If you don't like the original origami, you could change to the origami blue. I believe those are the two available to you all. And then a background track if you'd like some music to play while your users are playing, you can select that here. And then finally, one of the areas that's really exciting, something where you can make your own, is a splash screen that you saw at the beginning. You can add your own logo, a title, and a background image, and truly make the game your own. Give it a little bit of branding, give it a little pop for yourself. So when your users load up the game, it's something exciting, something familiar to them. So that's really cool right there, right at the start of the game. And then if you have any privacy policies, URLs or your company name, you can also upload here. And once you're done with your game settings and you're ready to go, you can go ahead and click the save button. And then the next area you'll be moved into is the meat of the course here, is the questions tab. Now, if you first arrive here, if you're just creating a game, this is going to appear completely blank. And how you would add a question group is you'd actually click this green button, add question group at the top. And what will happen is one of these blue tabs will appear. And within each one of these blue tabs, as the name suggests, the question group, it's going to contain the image or the video that you'll upload. You'll be able to name that question group. If I want to name this the unsanitary group 1, I could name that right here via this text field. You can set the timer in terms of seconds for this question group. So this 60 seconds represents the 60 seconds I have total to observe that image. And then my point value will go down for every second thereafter, incremented. I think it starts at 1800 and then goes all the way down to 100. And then beneath the image or the video that you upload, which you upload right here, by the way, will be the questions that you add. And so each one of the questions will appear in one of these green tabs. We'll pop one of these opens. And when you add the question, you have the option for a few different question types. You can choose to do the standard multiple choice question, the multiple select, so if there's multiple correct answers, you can also choose this, a text input, or a poll. After you've selected your question type, you can choose to play audio that accompanies your question. The question text, where you input your content, is right there. And then underneath this section is the answer section. And you'll have the ability to add up to 4 different answers for multiple choice and multiple select. You can choose whether you want to randomize those answers every time they're presented. And then once you put in each answers, you can denote which one is correct by checking the box next to those answers. Now, this is specific, obviously, to the multiple select. If it was multiple choice, you would only be able to select one. And then for text input, it would appear in a similar fashion. You would select which options are correct for the text input. And then if you want to take away any one of your answers at any time, you would just click this minus icon to the right of each one of the answers. Beneath the answer section is your feedback response. So that little bit of feedback I got when I got the answers correct or incorrect is here. You can enter something inspiring or maybe some more information about why your user got that answer correct or incorrect in each one of these sections here, denoted by correct or incorrect. Now, each one of your questions will be contained in this GREE tab. Remember, if you have that setting default by randomizing the question groups at the beginning, the order of these groups, or the order of these images and these questions will be presented, is represented by the order that these groups are in right here. If you want to change these at any time, you can actually click on these arrows and move them up and down in the order, and they'll change. Now, it doesn't look like they change because these question group names, I'm actually going to call this group. I'm going to call this group kitchen, just so you can see this real quick. And I'm going to change the second one to group fire. I'll go ahead and save that. Oh, please check the form. Okay, so now if you see that, see group fire and group kitchen, I have switched them, and you can see they'll switch that order. But if you recall in the game info screen, you go back here and you have ticked that box where it automatically randomizes the question groups. It'll do that for you, so they won't appear in this order. So that's just a quick note there. And then for the actual questions, you can choose to randomize the questions in the group by clicking that box here. Otherwise, if you don't, if you want to switch them up at any time, you can also click these arrows to shift the order in which they appear. And so you would continue on in this fashion until you've had all of your question groups with each one of the images and the video and the questions and answers, everything that you wanted to ask, and it would all be contained in here. There's no limit to the amount of question groups and questions that you can have in each one of these. You can go on for as much as you have until you're satisfied that your training course is complete for recall. Now, with some of the time that we have left, let's dive into translations. We'll keep moving along here to the right, the next tab. So as I mentioned earlier, the Training Arcade readily supports 15 different languages, and you have the ability to select a default language in that game information screen. So for us, we selected English back here. Quick. And so you can select from English US, the UK, Japanese, German, Spanish, French, Turkish. All of these languages you have access to by default in the Training Arcade. And this essentially translates, what we've already done is translated all of the options, the default settings, numbers, words, things like that, that are already built into the games right here. And what you can do on this tab is you can download a template or upload your content for the game for that particular language. And so you would download our CSV. We would put it, it's formatted specifically. You would hand that to the translator. It would have all of your content in it. And then it would be translated into those languages that you needed for your game. And so although you're responsible for translating your own content in different languages, we made it incredibly efficient and easy for you to upload different languages for your use. Then the last tab I want to cover before we dive into some of the other features of the Training Arcade is the Publish page. So you can elect here to make your URL private or not. And so if you really want to lock down access, otherwise you can copy your URL right here. You can launch the game from this screen. We'll launch right into it. And you can send it out to your users and ready for play. If you have an LMS and it's SCORM compliant, we are SCORM compliant. You can download your SCORM package right here, whether it's 1.2 or 2004, and it's going to contain all of the hooks necessary to pass back information from the game to your LMS. So we touched on that percentage required to pass. If you have a percentage required to pass for your course in your LMS, we would pass that variable back to you for your users to move on, showing that they've completed this course successfully. So let's go over the analytics. So something that's really awesome about the Training Arcade is it includes some pretty in-depth analytics, and it's a pretty powerful tool right here in the dashboard. So you as the admin, if you have an admin seat, you'll be able to see a screen just like this. And right off the bat, it shows you for any one of your games, very broad information about the game. You'd see your game up here in the top menu. You can see how many users versus newer today, what's the highest score on my game, the total number of sessions, completed session, and then how long are my users spending playing my game. And then you can actually go from this really broad view and start to get super granular. So if you want more detail, if you want more information on specific players, you can actually continue down on the page and start to dive into particular details about your players, about the questions. And so I can see all of my player stats here, their names, the ranks, the high score, the names, emails, all of that's here, how many sessions that they've completed, how long are they spending on that particular game, what is the percentage of questions correct that they got versus incorrect, and then the total number of questions they've gone through. Continued on specific question stats for this game, there are no questions. So that's why this is displaying as such. But each question would appear here. The average time that was spent by all of your users on that question, percentage correct versus incorrect, the number of attempts, and then on which attempt, 1 through 3, are they getting the answer correct versus incorrect? So you can actually see, are your users progressing? Or maybe everyone's getting them incorrect and they're spending a good deal of time on it. And so what does that tell you? Is that telling you that maybe the content's too hard? Maybe I need to change this, or maybe my users didn't study hard enough. Maybe they really don't know this topic and we need to recover it or cover that topic. And so this gives you some great details on information about your course and how your players are progressing through it. And then the last thing I'll show you is you can dive into each player specifically. So I want to know more about Richard here, particularly. I want to know all that detail about Richard. And so all you'll have to do is click on Richard's name, and right away you have a complete view of Richard and how he's doing. His high score, the number of sessions, his duration of playing the game during that session. You can see each one of his individual sessions. So is he playing the game when he needs to play the game? Is he coming back to the content? Is he engaging with it? And then particularly about each question, is he learning? Is he struggling? And so, as mentioned earlier, you can see all of that great detail right here in the training arcade. It's offered to you, and it's laid out in a normal fashion. And if you need to export reports, you can go ahead and actually customize. You add a custom date range, the reports, the data that you need. You can search for a specific name or email, and then it exports as a CSV here right from the training arcade. You just click the three dots and then the export. And then if you need to refresh data at any time to pull in some more stats after a session, you can click this refresh button right here. So I have a question from Barry. Can we track the questions the user answers incorrectly? Yes. Yes, you can do that. Absolutely. So in this screen right here, you'd be able to see those questions incorrect that they would see. And for each question, it would put the question name right here, and then you'd be able to see if they've answered it incorrectly or correctly. It's a great question. All righty. So if there's no more questions, I'll give ourselves another minute or two for questions if anyone has anything in the chat. Um, again, the trading arcade it's a fantastic tool. Um, it really is an awesome thing to see users get excited about learning and engaging with the content because they're playing a game, and you're taking advantage. Not taking advantage. That's such a strong thing to say. But you are using a person's natural competitive drive. It's built into them to motivate them to perform well. Perform well by learning the content that you present to them. And that's quite an exciting concept when someone's excited about learning. And so it's a really effective tool. And I hope you all enjoyed this webinar. And thank you all so much for joining. We'll have another one here in a few weeks. Oh, Barry has another question. Can we determine which type of device the user is playing the game on? Cell phone, tablet? That is a great question. So I would love to follow up with you, Barry. Actually, let me just double check here with Joseph McDonald on that question, and I will get back to you. A note here. All right, awesome. Well, folks, that's going to do it for the webinar today. We will have another webinar coming up here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for joining, and have a fantastic day.